Okay, this is just going to be a quick demonstration video for the sponge printing project, which you're going to be using as your example of repetition. So repetition does not mean that something has to be exactly the same all the time. It can be, but for our work here, we're going to use repetition, but we're going to make the shapes vary in the direction that they're pointing and in the color that you're using by using our cutout sponge shape as kind of like the way that we're going to print the shape onto the paper. And every time we print it, it's going to be a little bit different, but the overall shape will stay the same. So I have my sponge here, cut it out. It's the same one that I used on my introductory image. And I'm just going to show you the first one. So I'm going to dip it in water and just get it a little bit wet and then get my paint on there. So I'm using the liquid watercolors that are in the classroom in the tube. If you have come to school, you might have taken some, so if you have them, you can definitely use them. If you don't have watercolor from school, you can use watercolors at home. You could just dip it right into the paint set. You could use tempera paint or acrylic. If you have that, you can just put a little bit on a plate and stamp into that. You could also use liquid food coloring. So that would work just as well because it's basically the same as watercolor, just, it's just food safe. All right, so I have my paint loaded on my sponge and I'm just going to press really gently and try to get my shape. That one's a good one. And it's going to depend how wet your sponge is. You don't want it to be super wet because it's going to kind of ooze out everywhere. You want to still try to keep the shape as clear as possible because then that's when the repetition will come in. All right, so I'm going to squeeze out my sponge. All right, this would be your first process shot, so you might want to remember to take a picture of this work. And then you take your second color, squeeze out your extra water. You want to make sure that you're doing this in an area that you can clean, a table, a counter, a desk, somewhere that you can kind of wipe up the surface when you're done. You don't want to be doing this on, a tablecloth or your bedspread. Press down on that. All right, so because this is repetition, they can overlap each other. The colors can mix a little bit because you're still going to get the sense of that same shape being repeated. Some can be sideways, some can be up and down. Okay, and then you take a picture of this. This would be your second process shot, so just make sure that you remember to do that. I'm going to do my third color. And when you're done, you're going to actually outline your sponge shape so that the shape is really clear at the end, but I'll show that on my final version. Okay, so this would be your third image for your process shot. All right, have fun.